Unlock your digital dreams. This is New Deep Dive.
Have you ever found yourself in a conversation listening to the words, but feeling like there's this whole other silent dialogue unfolding, beneath the surface? An unraised eyebrow, maybe a sudden crossing of arms, or just a subtle shift in posture? These aren't just random movements, are they?
No, definitely not. They're clues. Revealing emotions, intentions, sometimes even thoughts we're trying to hide.
Right. It's like our bodies are constantly broadcasting, often, well, more honestly than our words, maybe.
It's true. It's a really fundamental layer of how we interact, always
Yeah.
on display, whether we realize it or not.
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive, to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut, a way to get properly well-informed on this universal, often hidden language. We're going to go beyond just the basics, try to uncover how to decipher these subtle signals, help you sidestep common misinterpretations.
Which happens a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And show you how to actually apply this knowledge in your everyday life, from tricky negotiations maybe to building deeper, more authentic connections.
And we've woven together quite a rich tapestry of insights for this. We're drawing from the latest psychological research, especially Paul Ekman's really pioneering work on facial expressions. He kind of revolutionized that field.
He really did.
But we're also integrating insights from, well, much older wisdom traditions. Buddhist and Vedic perspectives offer these unique, sometimes quite counterintuitive views on how the body mirrors the mind's inner landscape. It's fascinating stuff.
It sounds like a really powerful combination. And what makes body language so endlessly fascinating, I think, is that it seems universal, right? Independent of spoken language.
Largely, yes.
But here's the critical nuance. We need to get this out right at the start.
Yeah.
The very same gesture can mean vastly different things across cultures.
Absolute crucial point. A nod isn't always yes everywhere. A thumbs up isn't always good.
Exactly. What's an affirmation in one place could be neutral or even offensive somewhere else, like, say, in Japan or India versus the USA.
You absolutely cannot apply a blanket rule. Understanding the cultural lens is just as vital as reading the physical signal itself. You need both.
Okay, let's unpack this captivating world of silent communication. And I think we should start where so much of our emotion is expressed, the face. It's truly our primary emotional canvas, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Paul Ekman's work here is key. He identified 7 universal emotions visible on the face across all cultures: joy, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt.
Universal, so hardwired in.
Seems to be. They're not learned. They're part of our biology. Probably an evolutionary mechanism for quickly recognizing, friend or potential threat.
Like a survival mechanism,
Yeah.
an instant read. Okay, so talking facial cues, let's pick one that feels common. Raised eyebrows. What's the deeper story there?
Well, a sudden raising of the eyebrows often signals genuine surprise or curiosity, that wow, really kind of moment.
Okay.
But here's the nuance. If the eyebrows go up and stay up, maybe with a slightly furrowed brow alongside it, that can lean more towards anxiety, like, uh-oh, is something wrong?
Ah, so duration matters. And what else is happening on the face?
Exactly. The context is everything.
Yeah.
Is the person genuinely delighted by some news, or are they maybe betraying apprehension in, say, a tense meeting?
Fascinating. And I know from the Buddhist perspective, there's a concept that might apply here. Anicca.
Yes, Anicca, impermanence. That raised eyebrow, it's a fleeting state, it passes. Anicca teaches us not to cling to that first immediate interpretation.
So don't jump to conclusions based on that one flash.
Right. Observe the progression, the whole context of their expressions. Look for what comes next. Recognize that initial signal might just be a momentary flicker, not their fixed state.
That's helpful. Okay, what about a wrinkled forehead? That seems like such a classic sign of, well, something negative usually. Worry, maybe.
It is, often. A wrinkled forehead is a common indicator of anger or worry or even just deep concentration. But to really understand it, you need to look for clusters of signals.
Ah, not just the forehead alone.
Never alone. Is it paired with tight lips? That leans more towards anger or disagreement. Are the corners of their mouth drooping slightly? That suggests worry or sadness. We tend to zoom in on one cue, but the combination really tells the story.
And culturally, I'm guessing this isn't universal either. A wrinkled brow?
Not entirely.
Hmm.
In India, for instance, a slightly wrinkled forehead when talking to an elder or someone in authority can actually be a sign of respectful concentration. It shows you're listening intently, not that you're displeased.
Interesting.
And from an Ayurvedic perspective, rooted in the Vedas, this kind of sustained facial tension, especially if it's linked to anger, might connect to the Pitta dosha. that fiery, intense energy manifesting physically.
So if we see someone with that crinkled forehead, how does that Buddhist idea of karuna compassion guide how we should respond? What does that mean practically?
Well, karuna isn't just feeling sorry for someone. It's more about actively approaching them with empathy. So, if you see a wrinkled forehead, instead of immediately thinking, oh, they're mad at me or they disagree, karuna prompts a different internal question. They might be struggling with something. Maybe anger, maybe worry, maybe just thinking really hard.
It shifts your internal dialogue.
Exactly. From judgment towards understanding. And that naturally changes how you might choose to respond. Maybe you soften your tone, maybe you ask a general question.
Okay, and then there's the smile, arguably the most recognizable signal we have. But even a smile, well, it can be tricky, can't it? Not always genuine.
Absolutely. Not all smiles are created equal. There's the true, authentic smile, the Duchenne smile, which crucially involves the muscles around the eyes. It creates those little crinkles, the crow's feet.
You see it in the eyes.
You really do. Then there's the false or polite smile. Think of the Japanese concept of tape-mei, the public facade. It's often just the lips, the mouth smiling, but the eyes remain flat or disconnected.
So the key takeaway for our listener is, look for the warmth and engagement in the eyes. If that sparkle isn't there, the smile might be masking something else, discomfort, maybe sadness, maybe just politeness. The Vedic principle of satya, or truthfulness, encourages us to seek that deeper authenticity in expressions. Look past the surface.
Always check the eyes. Got it. What about tight lips? When someone presses their lips together firmly, that always strikes me as holding something back.
You're spot on. Tight lips very often signify frustration or disagreement or just generally suppressed emotions. In a negotiation, it's a huge tell.
How so?
It often means someone is holding an unvoiced objection, even if they're nodding politely. They might have already mentally vetoed whatever you just said. We see it a lot when people are trying to be polite or avoid direct confrontation.
Right, especially maybe in cultures that value restraint more.
Exactly. In many Eastern cultures, restraint is valued, so this might be a way of showing disagreement respectfully without actually voicing it.
So if you see tight lips, you definitely don't want to push harder, do you?
Probably not. The Buddhist principle of ahimsa, non-harming, would advise against pressuring someone showing this sign. It's a cue. Give them space. Maybe rephrase your point, or gently invite them to share their thoughts without putting them on the spot. They might just need a moment.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. We've covered these more visible facial cues, but I know there are even subtler ones. Microexpressions. What exactly are those? They sound almost invisible.
They almost are. Microexpressions are these incredibly fleeting, involuntary facial movements. They last maybe only 125th to 15th of a second.
Wow, that fast.
Blink, and you miss it, literally. But they reveal true underlying emotions before someone can consciously mask them. Think of a quick, tiny wrinkle of the nose betraying disgust, even if they smile right after, or a flash of fear in the eyes that's instantly covered up.
So you can't really fake them or stop them.
Very, very difficult to suppress them entirely. They leak out.
So this isn't something you just pick up casually then. It sounds like it requires some real training to spot them reliably.
It generally does, yes. Recognizing them usually requires deliberate practice, often using slow-motion video clips to train the eye. But, the Vedic concept of drishti, which means insight or focused gaze, suggests that even these incredibly subtle signals reflect a deeper truth within the person. The awareness that they exist encourages us to look beyond the obvious surface expressions.
So it's about developing a more discerning eye, even if we don't catch every single one.
Exactly. And the ethics here are crucial. This knowledge, especially about microexpressions, is best used for empathy and understanding, maybe in therapy or just building deeper connections, not for manipulation. That goes against both Buddhist ahimsa and Vedic satya.
That's a really important point. Okay, from the face, let's move on. Let's transition to the hands. You could say they're our best narrators sometimes, right? They emphasize, they express, sometimes they even replace speech.
They really do. Our hands are incredibly expressive tools.
But again, that reminder, cultural variations are huge here too.
Always. Take open palms, for example. Showing your open palms is a pretty universal signal of sincerity and openness. Think about it if someone tells you, look, I have nothing to hide, and their palms are casually open, facing you, maybe resting on the table.
It feels more honest. It builds trust instinctively.
It does. In a negotiation, it signals cooperation, a willingness to be transparent. Now, while it's broadly understood, how expressive it is varies. It tends to be much more pronounced in, say, Mediterranean cultures, whereas in Japan, it might be far subtler.
Interesting. And the Vedic connection.
Well, in Vedic Yajurveda rituals, for instance, raised or open palms symbolize an offering or devotion or an openness to receiving divine grace. It's an archetypal gesture of inviting or giving freely.
How about the pointing finger? I know that one can get you into hot water in some places.
Oh, absolutely. That's a gesture that requires significant caution. In the U.S., pointing is relatively neutral, right? We use it to highlight something, to direct attention.
Sure, look at that.
But in Japan, or many parts of the Middle East, pointing directly at someone can be quite offensive. It can come across as aggressive, accusatory.
So context and tone are critical again.
Absolutely. Is it just an innocent emphasis, or does it feel like an attack? The Buddhist principle of ahimsa, non-harming, generally advises us to avoid gestures that could be perceived as confrontational or aggressive. Maybe use an open hand to gesture instead.
Good tip. Okay, we've all seen this one. Someone fidgeting, playing with a pen, their phone, maybe twisting a ring, fiddling with their hair. What's that often telling us?
That's a classic sign of nervousness or maybe boredom or just pent-up energy needing an outlet. Sometimes in a really long, dull meeting, that pen can suddenly become the most fascinating object in the room.
Been there.
Right. But in a more stressful situation, like maybe an employee review or a difficult conversation, that fidgeting can betray significant anxiety. It indicates discomfort with a topic or the pressure of the situation.
And cultural takes on that.
Well, in many Asian cultures, for example, excessive fidgeting might be seen negatively, perhaps as a lack of engagement or even disrespect. It might suggest you're not fully present.
What stands out to you personally about fidgeting?
For me, it's a great reminder for self-awareness. Buddhist mindfulness practices are excellent for this. They help us recognize our own nervous gestures. If you notice yourself unconsciously tapping your foot or clicking your pen, that's a little signal from your body.
A cue to check in with yourself.
Exactly. A cue to perhaps take a quiet, calming breath, consciously choose stillness, and bring yourself back to being fully present.
Okay, then there's the classic. Crossed arms. I think this is one of the most frequently misinterpreted signals out there. People jump straight to, oh, they're defensive or they're closed off.
That's the stereotype, isn't it? And while it can certainly mean defensiveness or resistance, especially if combined with other cues like leaning back or avoiding eye contact,
it could just mean
they're cold.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is a very common reason people cross their arms. Or maybe it's just a comfortable resting position for them.
So context, context, context.
Always. And culture, too.
Yeah.
In India, for example, crossed arms during a formal conversation can be quite neutral or even interpreted as a sign of respectful listening, showing you're attentive.
Really? That's the opposite of the Western interpretation.
Pretty much. So, again, that Buddhist karuna, compassion, comes in. Instead of making a snap judgment, they dislike me, they're shutting down approach with empathy. Maybe just check in non-confrontationally. Are you comfortable or is everything all right? Open a door instead of assuming one is closed.
That's a much better approach. Now, I'm really curious about these next ones you mentioned. Mudras. What exactly are they? I associate them with, yoga or meditation. How do they fit into everyday body language?
Well, mudras are primarily ritual gestures, especially using the hands. And they hold deep significance in Buddhism and Hinduism. Think of the Anjali Mudra, where the palms are pressed together at the heart.
Like a prayer position.
Exactly. It's widely recognized as a gesture of respect, greeting, or gratitude. While they have profound spiritual meanings, the underlying principle is relevant to body language. Specific hand positions can convey specific states of being or intention.
So it's not just spiritual symbolism, but the postures themselves might subtly influence interaction.
Precisely. Vedic rituals, for example, emphasize that gestures act as a kind of bridge between the body and the spirit. They can influence our inner states and also communicate non-verbally. In everyday life, think about mirroring. Subtly mirroring someone's open or relaxed hand gestures can build unconscious rapport. It creates a subtle sense of connection, of being on the same wavelength.
But it has to be subtle, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just mimicry.
Oh, absolutely. Very subtle. If it's obvious, it can feel like you're mocking them, which has the opposite effect.
Okay, good point. So we've talked face, hands. Let's broaden out now to the entire body. Our posture. It seems like it reflects so much about our psychological and emotional state.
It absolutely does. It's a constant broadcast. Take an upright posture, for instance, shoulders back, head held high. Universally, that tends to signal confidence, authority, readiness.
You see it in leaders, people giving presentations.
Exactly. An upright stance projects confidence. It inspires trust. It says, I'm present, I'm engaged, I'm confident in what I'm saying.
But again, culture plays a role here too.
Of course. In Japanese culture, for example, a slight bow, a less rigidly upright posture, often signifies humility and respect, particularly toward seniors or authority figures. It contrasts with the Western emphasis on a very straight spine for showing authority.
And the Eastern traditions link posture to mindset.
Deeply. In Buddhist meditation, specific postures like the lotus or half lotus are meticulously cultivated not just for physical stability, but to promote mindfulness and mental clarity. And in the Vedic tradition, the concept of Rita, cosmic order, and harmony suggests that our physical posture can reflect and even influence our internal balance and connection to that larger order.
So what about the opposite then? A slumped posture. Shoulders rounded, head down. That feels like it tells a pretty clear story, usually one of sadness or maybe fatigue.
It often does, yes. A slumped posture frequently indicates sadness, tiredness, low energy, or even symptoms of depression. Therapists often notice changes in posture as one of the earlier, more subtle signals of emotional distress.
But is there a cultural twist here too?
There can be. Again, in India, a slightly slumped or bowed posture when interacting with an authority figure might be interpreted as a sign of deference and respect rather than weakness or sadness.
It's amazing how many nuances there are. So if you see someone slumped, how should we approach that compassionately, using that Karuna principle again?
Approach with care and empathy. Recognize they might be experiencing difficulty, but don't assume you know what it is. Instead of judging it as weakness or lack of confidence, it invites a gentle inquiry, maybe just a quiet, "Are you doing okay?" or offering support if appropriate.
Okay. What about leaning towards the speaker during a conversation? That seems like a pretty clear positive signal.
It generally is, yes. It's a very clear sign of interest and active engagement. When someone physically leans in, it indicates they're listening intently, they're involved, they want to absorb more. They're literally closing the physical distance.
But watch out for personal space.
Absolutely. You have to be mindful of cultural boundaries regarding personal space or proxemics. In some cultures, like parts of Scandinavia, leaning too close might feel intrusive, invading their personal bubble, even if your intention is just to show interest.
And the Vedic connection here.
The Veda principle of Dharma, which relates to righteous conduct and duty, implicitly includes respecting others' boundaries, both physical and personal. Engaging closely is good, but ensure it's welcomed and respectful of their space.
Right. And those tense shoulders hunched up around the ears. I feel like I see that a lot in stressful meetings or difficult conversations.
Oh, yes. Tense, raised shoulders are a classic signal of stress, anxiety, or defensiveness. It's like the body is unconsciously trying to protect itself, creating a physical shield against a perceived threat, whether it's real or just social.
Can it signal escalation?
It can, yes. In a conflict situation, if you see someone's shoulders tightening up, it can be a sign that their emotional tension is rising. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, this kind of chronic physical tension, especially around the neck and shoulders, is often linked to the Vata dosha, that energy principle associated with movement, air, and often nervous energy, or being easily stressed.
So if you see that in someone or even feel it in yourself, what's a helpful response? Maybe drawing on Buddhist ideas.
Well, Buddhist Vipassana, or insight meditation, teaches us to become acutely aware of these physical sensations, like shoulder tension, both in ourselves and others, recognizing them non-judgmentally as signals of inner discomfort. A practical tip in a conversation.
Yeah.
If you notice someone's shoulders creeping up, or you feel your own doing it,
Yeah.
it might be a good moment to suggest a brief pause. Maybe say, let's take a quick stretch, or offer a glass of water, or simply slow down the pace of the conversation. It can help de-escalate that physical tension.
Good practical advice. And on the flip side, a relaxed posture, shoulders down, body loose, that's generally a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Creates a better atmosphere.
Absolutely. It signifies comfort, tranquility, openness. A relaxed posture naturally makes someone seem more approachable and creates a friendlier vibe in social or professional settings. It signals, I'm at ease here, I'm receptive.
Though maybe less overt in some cultures.
Possibly. In some Eastern cultures where emotional restraint is more the norm, very obvious, visible relaxation might be less pronounced in formal settings. But internally, it still reflects a state of calm. And interestingly, the Vedic concept of tapas, often translated as discipline or austerity, can also encompass the conscious cultivation of body relaxation as a spiritual practice, a path to inner calm and mental clarity.
Okay, now for a big one. Let's talk about the eyes. They say they're the windows to the soul, right? And eye contact feels like one of the most powerful, maybe most intimate elements of body language.
It absolutely is. And it's incredibly complex, especially when you factor in culture. In many Western cultures, the U.S., much of Europe, maintaining fairly consistent eye contact, maybe around 60–70% of the time during a conversation.
That builds trust, signals sincerity.
Generally, yes. It suggests you're engaged, you're listening, you're confident. But it's a fine line. Too much, like an unblinking stare, can feel aggressive or confrontational. Too little, constantly looking away, might imply shyness, discomfort, or in some contexts, even dishonesty.
And this is where the cultural differences are really stark, isn't it?
Immensely so. In Japan or India, for example, avoiding direct eye contact, particularly when speaking to elders or those in positions of authority, is often a sign of deep respect and humility.
So the exact opposite interpretation. It's not about dishonesty, it's about deference.
Precisely. It's a deliberate act. And from a Buddhist perspective, there's often more emphasis on the inner gaze, introspection, mindfulness, than on intense external looking. Practices like tritaka, which involves gazing steadily at a single point like a candle flame, are used to develop concentration and intuition. It's about seeing within, and perhaps reading others' intentions more subtly without needing that constant direct gaze.
What about an intense gaze when someone really locks eyes with you? Is that always a power play or trying to dominate?
It can be, certainly. In a negotiation or a debate, an intense, sustained gaze might be an attempt to assert dominance or control. But again, context is king.
Right.
In a romantic context, that same intense gaze could signify deep fascination, attraction, or profound connection. And the Vedic concept of drishti, or insightful seeing, posits that the eyes are a powerful window to the Atman, the soul, or true self. So an intense gaze, when offered with positive intention, could be seen as an attempt to connect on that deeper soul level.
Okay. What if someone is blinking really rapidly? Does that tell us anything?
Yes. Rapid blinking is often a physiological response to stress, uncertainty, or discomfort. When someone's under pressure, or perhaps trying to process difficult information, you might notice their blink rate increase significantly.
Like a stress indicator.
Exactly. Ayurveda might link this kind of physical manifestation of stress to the Vata dosha again, that principle associated with movement and an overactive nervous system. It's a visible signal that someone might be feeling agitated or overwhelmed internally.
And if someone just looks away a lot during a conversation, what might that mean?
Looking away can mean several things. It could simply be thoughtfulness, accessing memory, or processing information often involves breaking eye contact briefly. It could be avoidance if the topic is uncomfortable. Or, in some situations, especially when answering difficult questions directly, it might imply discomfort with the truth, or potentially deception.
The cultural caveat again.
Always. In many Asian cultures, looking away periodically during conversation can be entirely neutral, or even a sign of respect or thoughtful consideration, not avoidance or dishonesty. So the Buddhist concept of anicca, impermanence, is relevant again. Don't judge that single glance away too hastily. It might be a momentary shift in focus, a cultural norm, or genuine thought, not necessarily a definitive statement about their truthfulness.
It's so layered. Okay, so we've covered the face, the hands, posture, the eyes. But body language goes even beyond those key areas, right? What are some other significant nonverbal signals we should be aware of?
Oh, definitely. One really important one is proxemics, the use of personal space. How close people comfortably stand or sit next to each other varies hugely across cultures.
Right, like the difference between Latin America and maybe Scandinavia.
Exactly. People in many Latin American cultures tend to interact at a much closer distance than people in, say, Northern Europe or North America, who generally prefer more personal space. The Vedic idea of Rita, or cosmic harmony, can be seen as extending to respecting individual boundaries and personal space as part of maintaining social harmony. Understanding and respecting these invisible bubbles is crucial.
Subtle, but powerful. What about touch? Handshakes, pats on the back.
Touch is another potent nonverbal tool. It can convey support, reassurance, affiliation, warmth, or, depending on the context and relationship, dominance or control. But its meaning is intensely cultural and personal.
How so?
Well, in some cultures, physical touch is very common even among casual acquaintances. In others, like traditionally in India or parts of Asia, touch, especially between genders or different social statuses, might be much more reserved, generally limited to close family and friends.
So caution is needed.
Definitely. Buddhist ahimsa, non-harming, is a great guide here. It reminds us to always be mindful of physical boundaries and not impose touch where it might be unwelcome or misinterpreted. Always err on the side of caution unless you know the person and the cultural context well.
I hadn't really thought about breathing pace as body language before you mentioned prana. Can we really observe that?
You absolutely can, though it's often subtle. Fast, shallow breathing, especially high in the chest, often signals stress, anxiety, fear, or even suppressed anger. Conversely, slow, deep, diaphragmatic breathing usually indicates relaxation, calm, and self-possession.
And the link to Eastern practices.
It's central. In Buddhist meditation, the breath is the primary anchor for mindfulness, the key to understanding and regulating the mind. Similarly, in Vedic traditions, prana is the vital life force energy, intrinsically linked to the breath. Observing someone's breathing pattern can give you a surprisingly accurate, instantaneous read on their internal state, calm or agitated.
Fascinating. And leg movements. That restless leg syndrome or just tapping feet.
Yes, fidgeting with the legs or feet bouncing a knee, tapping toes can certainly be a sign of impatience, nervousness, boredom, or just excess energy needing an outlet, much like fidgeting hands.
But another cultural twist.
You guessed it. In India, for example, sitting cross-legged on the floor, even in relatively formal settings, can signify respect and attentiveness. And how one points their feet can also carry meaning. Pointing the soles of your feet at someone is considered disrespectful in many Asian and Middle Eastern cultures.
Wow. Okay, what about the nonverbal aspects of our voice itself? Tone, rhythm, volume. They aren't strictly body language, but they're crucial nonverbal cues, right?
Absolutely integral. The way we speak the prosody often carries more weight than the words themselves. Think about tone. A loud, assertive tone might convey confidence and authority in the USA.
But maybe rudeness elsewhere.
Exactly. In Japan, it can easily be perceived as lacking restraint or being impolite. Faster speech can signal excitement, passion, or nervousness. Slower speech might indicate thoughtfulness, calmness, or maybe fatigue.
And the Ayurvedic link.
From an Ayurvedic perspective, faster, more erratic speech patterns are often associated with an imbalance in the Vata dosha, reflecting that quick, airy, sometimes scattered mental energy. Conversely, think about Vedic mantra recitation. It emphasizes a very specific, controlled tone, pitch, and rhythm to evoke certain energies and states of consciousness. The sound itself has power.
That makes sense. And finally, simple head movements. Nodding means yes, shaking means no. Usually.
Usually in the West, yes, but not universally. The famous side-to-side head wobble common in India is a perfect example.
Right, that can look like uncertainty or a maybe to Westerners.
Exactly. But it often signifies agreement, acknowledgement, yes, I hear you, okay, or enthusiasm. It's a fantastic example of why you cannot assume universal meaning. It can lead to significant misunderstandings if you're not aware of the local convention.
Okay, this is a lot to take in. So with all these signals, face, hands, body, eyes, space, touch, breath, voice, culture, how do we actually go about reading body language effectively in real life without getting overwhelmed or making constant mistakes? What are the practical, actionable tips you'd give our listener?
It's about integrating, not just cataloging. So, first and foremost, always look at the whole picture. Never judge a single signal in isolation.
Don't just focus on the crossed arms.
Exactly. Those crossed arms might genuinely mean someone's cold, unless they're also leaning back, avoiding eye contact, maybe have tight lips and a furrowed brow. Look for clusters of cues that tell a consistent story. One signal isn't enough.
Okay, rule 1. Clusters, not single cues. What else?
Second, always consider the context. Where is this happening? What's the situation? Stressful situations like a job interview or a public speaking gig naturally alter body language. People might show signs of nervousness that have nothing to do with dishonesty or disinterest. The environment matters hugely.
Right. Context is key. Number 3.
Know the culture. We've hit this again and again, but it's vital. That Indian head wobble, Japanese eye contact norms, Middle Eastern proxemics. If you're interacting across cultures, even a basic understanding of common nonverbal communication styles is invaluable to avoid misinterpretation.
Makes sense. How about improving our own observation skills?
Fourth, practice mindfulness. Techniques like Buddhist Vipassana meditation aren't just for monks. They train your mind to observe subtle details, sensations in your own body, nuances in others' behavior without immediately jumping to judgment. It cultivates a keen, non-reactive awareness. You start noticing more naturally.
So becoming a better observer of reality as it is.
Precisely. And fifth, critically, always strive to be ethical. Use this knowledge to build bridges, foster understanding, enhance empathy, and deepen connections. Never use it to manipulate, deceive, or exploit others. The foundational principles here, whether from Buddhist ahimsa, non-harming, or Vedic satya, truthfulness, emphasize respect and integrity. This knowledge is powerful. Use it for good.
Look at the whole picture, consider context, know the culture, practice mindfulness, and be ethical. That's a fantastic summary.
This has been such a truly illuminating deep dive. It's clear that body language isn't just simple signals. It's this complex, fascinating, universal language, connecting our biology, our culture, even our spiritual awareness. And it really requires that mindfulness and empathy for any true understanding.
Absolutely. And bringing in those perspectives like Vedic Satya and Buddhist Ahimsa really underscores that respect and compassion aren't just nice to haves when interpreting these signals. They are fundamental. They ensure we use this powerful understanding responsibly and constructively.
So here's a thought for you, our listener, to take away. As you go through your week, try actively observing the body language of the people around you, maybe with some of these new ideas in mind. What do you notice? Perhaps you'll catch a subtle microexpression you never saw before, or maybe you'll understand someone's crossed arm posture in a completely new light, considering the context or just that they might be cold. What if these silent signals we've been talking about are constantly, subtly inviting us to connect with each other on a deeper level, with more empathy, more understanding, if only we learn to truly listen to their language? We'd genuinely love to hear what surprised you most about this deep dive, or any thoughts or personal observations you've made about body language in your own life. Feel free to share them. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the deep dive so you don't miss our next exploration into another fascinating topic. Until then.
Subscribe to New Deep Dive.